Coming on down the Hyperline, gonna have myself a time. There is J-Ben, there is Blank, there's Colaris talking Deadlock. There you go. All right, we are time here for the Hyperline episode number 3, working title, The Blank Canvas. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, as we talk about everything that's been going on in Deadlock throughout the week, what is to come, what we think about, what we all love and enjoy. It's gonna be a good time. J-Ben and Blank are joining me as always. My name is Colaris, the host. J-Ben, you've been a busy boy. You've not even been with us for the past couple of days. You've been playing a tournament over in Bologna here for Riftbound. How was that? I want to know. Tell us.
Bologna, Italy. Yeah, it was good. I didn't do that well, but I didn't get that much practice. But it was a really cool event. You know, Riot, I think generally, obviously we're Valve glazers here, but I do think Riot, when they take something, initially they always try to make like the most they can out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they're doing with this game. It's like it was a really cool experience, and like it was clear that like they'd thought about like, you know, oh, how do we do this? Like, how do we run an event with this many people and it's a card game and this kind of stuff? But we'll do it our way, and we'll like fix the things that we feel are broken. So yeah, generally it was a really, really good event. It took a really long time. But days were very, very long, but that's partially expected when you're playing a lot of rounds. But yeah, it was really, really cool experience. But it did cut into my deadlock time a little bit, sadly.
Sorry about that. How about yourself, Blank?
I've been at home.
You've been doing nothing.
I've been doing nothing. I've been playing like Deadlock on my own, you know, sleeping at reasonable hours. It's been crazy. Yeah, I think that you didn't really miss much, David. Right now is horrible. It is probably the worst it's ever been. So I mean, Deadlock wise, we are big Valve glazers, but matchmaking does suck. Unabashedly sucks right now. Game's still great. But I will say,
go on.
You wanted to start with a positive note.
Saved.
Go on.
You want to start with a positive note. Positive note is that Valve making Deadlock, assumedly, Riot's going to try and do something similar, right? At some point.
Is that where you were
Which
going
part of that
with
is a
this?
positive note?
The positive note is I think that overall for the esports scene, this is good. It's like, yeah.
There's more physical titles for him to potentially work in. That's what we're getting at.
No. I just mean like competition is great. You know, when you create a new thing like Deadlock, you know, other people want to make similar things. I think there's already the Chinese clone of Deadlock, which is bad, apparently. But
what do you mean?
That exists. Yeah, there's a Chinese Deadlock clone.
Yes.
And it has McGinnis in it, except that she's a really skinny woman, and she has turrets, which I didn't understand why they did that. And they also have Chinese Abrams, who goes, "You will never handle my book," something like that when he ults.
No, I know exactly what it is. It says something to the effect of, "You cannot have what you cannot touch."
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
this game sounds sick. How's the matchmaking?
I don't know. Anyway, that competition not so great. But if Riot does make one, I'd be happy to see it. That'd be cool. That would be cool. But I am a Deadlock ride or die guy right now.
Are we on this podcast, or is Blank just talking to himself? What's happening right now?
This is his Facebook wall. He's just updating his followers.
We went from matchmaking sucks to the Riot clone that's apparently coming. The Chinese one. You cannot have what you cannot touch.
I don't know if it's coming. I just assume they will do it at some point. Riot's got their fingers in many pies.
I'm hyperventilating. This is causing me anxiety. All right. Well, anyway, let's wipe the canvas clean. Wipe it blank. All right. It's time to talk about
blank canvas.
Yeah. Geez Louise. By the way, the working title of this episode, of course, kind of shown here for everybody to see as well. I'm sure that Blank's going to be able to show that. Very important picture that we've put together there for you guys over at home. Let's talk about our first topic before Blank decides to commandeer the podcast once again, and talk about, obviously, this has been a huge success, really, for a Deadlock in this patch that has happened recently with Old Gods. What are you laughing at?
Nothing. Carry on.
Yeah, shut up. And we wanted to talk about what potentially could come in the future, near future, in the kind of coming up afterwards as well, because there is still technically a lot of room for expansion of things, expansion of heroes, expansion of the map, expansion of art, etc., and things like that. So I guess I want to go to J-Ben, because if I go to Blank, we're going to get more from Blank straight away. I don't want that. Jabin, what are you thinking for the future? Because I think maybe like some art passes could be coming up in the very near future. That could be a checkpoint marker for them, and then who knows what after that. So what do you think?
I mean, the obvious number one is the hero Cheshire that has been clearly leaked, and we're all certain is real. Nothing sounds more real to me than the only leaked ability where you put another hero in your bag and you can take them into the tunnels. It sounds like a great kit. I'm really excited for that character to appear. I don't know, art pass wise, I feel like ever since they did they made that side of the map into like the port with the ship. I feel like the game has looked really good, to be honest. Like, I'm pretty happy with how the art of the map is. I mean, obviously, they still changed stuff. Like, they added the radio station in the little mini patch they did. Just out of nowhere, they were like, hey, this building's a radio station now. And we were like, okay. I think, they've done a lot of cool changes to make the map feel more dynamic in terms of, like, each side feeling very different. Obviously, though, I'm sure they'll still change small stuff. But I'm feeling very happy with the current state of the map, artistically at least. What things are to see change? I mean, obviously more heroes is going to be the big one, and then that kind of lends into getting closer to like more competitive modes like draft, which we talked about before last episode, right? Just having like more of a draft mode. I'm still not sure if 40 is like enough to feel confident. Like obviously a single ban is not that bad, but with the way the modes are set up and there is no like separate queue yet. It's still tough to kind of have a draft implementation without adding a bunch of time to these like easily matched games. But I think I'm definitely interested in seeing the game at least kind of start to hit like that. This is what it's going to look like in open beta state, right? Like presumably when open beta comes, they're going to want like a ranked mode in it and stuff like that. I would like to see like the beginning steps of that, like maybe a separate mode queue that's like timed. Like, I think the problem with Hero Labs is it wasn't very interesting, right? But I think the idea there is solid. Like, I think if it's like, hey, we're doing ranked for 3 hours a day and that kind of stuff again, I think, there's a chance people could be interested in that. I can't remember. Did they do that initially with the previous ranked queue or was it all day? I think it was limited, right?
It was limited to 3 days a week at certain times.
Certain windows.
Yeah. Oh, no. Was it?
It was every day at a certain window of time.
Yeah, every day at a certain window of time.
I think it was every
That's
day.
correct. Yeah. Which I did
so,
like.
I mean, I would say like it is a little weird, but like I do think like maybe taking that step again at some point makes sense. I do think the way it was implemented last time was like a little all over the place, right? They threw in like 57 ranks at once, and then people were mega climbing and not mega climbing, and then obviously they had to like roll it back and like combine the queues, which I think was also a little brutal. Just for the the matchmaking and like the not even just that, but like the way people felt about the game, I think changed a lot after that because suddenly these like normal testing games that shouldn't really matter that much, now everybody's thinking about their ranks and and like stuff like that.
Sure.
And, like, I think that was kind of like a change that happened to the game that sort of damaged it forever in terms of like how people approach the queues. But I think once we get to that open beta status, like I was saying, I think that kind of stuff will need to exist to encourage people to kind of like have more of a play pattern than just playing the game. So I would like to see steps being made towards that, I think, in the next few months.
Okay. Fine.
I hate to talk now. Yeah.
And that's enough. Anyway, let's move on.
Get out. My turn. No, go on.
I think a ranked queue would be cool. Averaging 125k a day, I think, is very reasonable for a ranked queue at this point in time. Between that and quick play, being able to play with friends is a huge deal. I got invited to a group the other day. I think it might have been yesterday actually. And it was a friend that I knew from university, and he was basically like, "Come play with us. We're 6 stacking." So I joined, and I just said, "No offense, guys, you're gonna have a bad time. Like I'm Ascendant 4 right now. This game's gonna be horrible." And they were just like, "Yeah, we actually don't want to play with you." And I was like, "Well, I mean,
they were
fair
all
enough."
turn of 6, of course, naturally.
Of course, they were all a turn of 6. They've been hyperinflated since starting playing the game, so obviously I couldn't play with them. It would have been a very bad time for me. But no, I think they're all around Emissary Archon. So yeah, I think I would just ruin their queue for them. So I had to leave. It would be nice just to have like a quick play. But I do think Deadlock's one of those games where it is sort of hard. You just got to throw like everyone into the mix and see what happens. But alas, I would like to see Walkers updated in terms of the art pass, maybe even Guardians as well. I think Guardians have got a really cool art style to them, but they still have that like almost unfinished brush over them. So because I do think when you look at the Guardians, they look slightly out of place in like the new lanes and settings, etc. But it's only slightly. I think Walkers are the ones where I'm like, does this really fit within the atmosphere of the game? Because they still sort of feel like left over from Neon Prime almost. I think they have tried to do a lot of work with that. I haven't quite got there. But I do think the big thing that needs work on next is definitely the jungle.
Even just the creeps themselves in the jungle, right? Like all just kind of being this. There was that one months and months ago where I think maybe somebody had found some other models for them, like plant-style creatures, Blank, if you can recall. This was ages ago, though. So maybe, I mean, that's clearly been something on their mind for a little while. It's just when it's going to come. Because I do feel like these little strange alien creature things, whatever they may be, do they have a name other than the denizens of New York? Like,
they're literally just always been called the denizens. Yeah,
right.
That's all they are. They're even coming from the damage feeders, the denizens. But yeah, there was interesting stuff like with the like leaked images. I guess you could just see it from the source viewer anyway. But these things, there was like a clock tower that walked around on like little spindly twig legs, stuff like that. But it was a singular model. As opposed to the other ones, which were like came in groups. So it's like, are they going to change one jungle camp to just be one mob that you have to take down? Like, how does that work? I mean, are they going to make different jungle camps require different resists? Like, is one camp going to be more resistant to gun than it is to spirit, and vice versa? So you have like different parts of the map can be more effectively farmed, which then also encourages you to have more than just gun characters on your team. Stuff like that, I think would be cool. I had an idea recently, which I whacked on the forums about Cultist Sacrifice, like the buff changing depending on which tier 3 camp you take, which I think could be interesting.
I'm thinking about it. Have
a think, yeah.
Am I interested?
The thing for me about like the idea of like resists or certain resists on these camps means that it makes things a bit more, I don't know, almost convoluted in the jungle to a degree, right? If they were going to do something like that, I don't mind the idea that somebody is kind of blitzing through it or whatever and getting it done. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about it more. What do you think, Jaden?
I do think the last change where they made the jungle weaker but respawn faster was pretty good. I will say it's a little like, Zoomery APM hyper intensive right now. It's like, you do the camp, you do 2 waves, you do the camp, you do 2 waves, you do the camp, do another camp. Box run, back to the way. Like, it's very, you have to be everywhere on time, it feels like. And if they're on time and you're not on time, like if your cycle gets broken or whatever, you see that very quickly. Like, you see people accelerating quite quickly. But I do think it is more interesting than it used to be. Yeah, maybe it is slightly too fast, I suppose is what I'm getting at. But I do like that it's much easier to clear. And it's more of like a thing between lanes or a thing between waves. Yeah. It's like, rather than like, I have to drop this whole wave to go, do this whole camp, and like, I'll do that again in like 6 minutes.
I do think they need to be like slightly more interesting in like terms of, do they have like weak points, or is there like certain mechanics you need to do, or is it like you need 2 players at once to take a certain camp? I mean, stuff like that would be cool, but you are totally right. I completely agree. The game is already so high APM. I think I was watching XQC talk about this the other day, where he was like, the players you're up against are all an Adderall, which was definitely an over exaggeration. But I get where he's coming from, where it's like some players on Deadlock, you just cannot catch up to them, because if you ever want to play the game, you have to be so locked in if you want to be playing on the highest level. If you want to be 15k souls ahead of people, it's possible with box routes, with in-between camp taking, being directly there on the waves on time. But man, it's a lot. I don't know if it's the same level as StarCraft. I don't think it would be. I think StarCraft's very, very hard. But yeah, it's a game you want to play a lot of. But you also have to deal with 5 other people. You have to deal with 5 other people as well, right? All trying to do the same thing.
It's like we were on night shift as well together last week, and every time people are like, "Let's say StarCraft around Kalara, so he's going to really pop him," and it happens every show, show.
No, because objectively, is probably one of the most difficult games in esports. Is StarCraft. I think that's reasonable for me to say. It's not because you're here. Okay, stop being so self-centered. But I think Deadlock's getting there. Deadlock is getting there.
No, you're right. I mean, the thing is that when you look at a MOBA, normally you say to yourself, okay, yes, it is difficult as a team game coordinated wise compared to like a StarCraft, obviously, because it's a 1v1 game. The individual skill of a StarCraft obviously kind of trumps the idea of the individual skill in a MOBA. But I think we're slowly getting there for Deadlock, where there's so much movement involved, all the timing's involved, being able to try and hit the guns as well, being able to try and hit your spells as well, making sure you're not in the wrong place at the right time. It's all over the place. It is getting very high intensive.
It just reminds me of a tweet from SK where she was like, I'm sick of all these new woke movement mechanics.
Yeah, and then she hits the crouch check on the stairs and she's like, whoa, I'm back in.
I'm on board. Yeah, like if I said to someone like just started playing Deadlock, they're like, "Oh, have you learned AG2 dashing?" It's like, what are we talking about?
No, this AG2 dash thing's driving me crazy. I'm seeing people do it and they're going miles, and I'm like, oh no, not something else that we have to learn. There's already enough as it is. Actually, that brings up a question that I had for you, Blank. Have they updated the in-game tutorial yet? Is there any? Because
yes, there is. It is completely updated now. There's like a new in-game tutorial where you play as 7 and it just guides you through like using your abilities, showing you what light melee is, what heavy melee is. It's kind of good. It is kind of good. I think that it gets the job done. I think the thing about the other tutorials didn't really guide you through all of the mechanics of the game. This one's still a little bare bones. But yeah, I think, for instance, when League started having its tutorials, it's much easier for League because the game flow of League is much more simple.
Sure. We also noticed that on one of our friends' new accounts as well, it recommended a bot street brawl, which just isn't on our UI at all. And I was like, oh, that's a new element. I didn't even know
that's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't even know that existed, J-Ben. Well, we saw it whilst we were talking to one of the guys, and that's there as well. So there are definitely steps being taken, J-Ben, to try and bring people on board a little bit, but I don't know whether or not a small tutorial with 7 telling you how to shoot your abilities is going to teach you AG2 dash box maxing and all of this.
I mean, just quickly, just before we move on, for people aren't aware what AG2 dashing is. Essentially, it's like when you're on a slope, this is part of like Source in general. If you dash directionally and one tick hit crouch at the same time as you hit the stairs, which is also dependent on the bucket your character is in terms of dash speed and dash amounts, you'll go an insanely fast amount of speed, which is crazy. It is crazy. But yeah, the gist of it is just as soon as you hit the slope with your feet, you dash, one tick, hit crouch, control on keyboard, and you go very fast.
He's getting angry. You're enraging him.
I feel like this one's going to get eliminated. Like, it's just ridiculous. Yeah. But it's dependent on whether or not it's just like a symptom of the kind of the whole structure as a whole underlying, and then maybe it just can't be removed. I don't know. Gaben, your thoughts?
I will know I think the consensus I've seen, to be honest, of like this, I would say this is like the third kind of wave of the Deadlock open phase, right? This is like the third wave we've hit of players kind of coming back. Because I thought I read it about someone talking about it, about like, oh, it's so great this time, you know? And people were kind of pushing back. They were like, oh, what do you mean this time? And he's like, oh, yeah, I started playing when it kind of first soft launched. I played like 10 games. I wasn't really interested. I came back for the first wave of characters. Like, I played like 20, 30 games, but I wasn't really feeling it. I came back this time. I've already played like 50 games plus 40 games of Brawl. I'm loving it, you know? I do think this third wave, it's probably a combination of a few things. I think like that tutorial does sound like it's better, right? It's going to get people to like, with groups of like playing it right a bit more, and like more of like, I think the previous tutorial was like just the text tools, right? I think mainly. And I think actually having like a mechanical tutorial is already a lot better for getting a feel of the game. I think it already gets people in a lot better. I think Street Brawl is really good for like just people just jumping in and messing around, right? If you don't take it that seriously. I do think that this time, and it speaks to the player numbers, right? It has kind of recaptured the audience, and people are staying this time. There's no like fast dropout. I mean, obviously, like we're probably going to hit a bit of a content drought again, right? As they work on the next major patch. Yeah, that's just kind of how it goes. But the numbers are really promising, given that, you know, for all in, you know, we could have just seen the same thing happen where everybody dropped out after the heroes released. Oh, we've tried all the new heroes. I'll come back when it feels more complete. It does feel like this time people are like, oh, this game is in a really great state now. I'm down to keep playing it. You know, I like Street Brawl. I like the wider cast. Like it's really good. Like, so I do think they're definitely in a much better spot for player retention than they were previously.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, we've got like, I think it's 100K. I would say 100K players who play daily, and then you gain around about 20, 25K on the weekends, which I think is very interesting because usually you get like a much higher peak on the weekends where people have time off to play the game, which does lend this into more
It's
of
just
the meme
everybody
about...
that plays Deadlock is unemployed.
Is unemployed. Yeah, that is the meme that's going around. The Deadlock is the unemployed game. Because you sort of have to at some points if you want to start hitting those higher ranks. It's just so intensive.
You just start have to leave your job.
Guys, if you want to play,
you want to get to return this, I'm afraid. Like, sorry, little Timmy, I've got to go play Mo and Krill. Like, no dinner for you tonight. Like,
yeah, it's gonna be noodles for the next week, guys. Sorry. Yeah, it's cool though. It is cool. I think you're right. The retention wise is way better. And I think it's the first time that after the major release, it's continued to grow. I think after most major releases, it had like its peak as the characters start to come out, and then it would slowly go back down again. This time it's like gone up, and then we've had little spikes here and there. All the heroes are out, and we're still getting like peaks, which is very interesting to me. And I think it is just that case of like the new map, new heroes, overall like design looks nice. The game isn't as buggy. I mean, I'm still getting shoved into the floor by Venator Gutshot, but it's not as bad as it used to be.
I'm seeing a lot of Apollos under the map as well.
It feels like a great time for content creation as well, to be honest. I feel like new player guides have been everywhere, but they're all succeeding. So like, even if the tutorial is a bit vague, it feels like there are a lot of people who are like, okay, I vibe with this game. I want to learn more about it. And like all of these like Deathy's guides and everybody who's been like, making these like, these Deadlock is 57 tips. Like, it feels like it's a really great space right now for that kind of content to flourish. And it seems like it's doing really well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for my money, like Street Brawl especially I would love to see the numbers of like, okay, what are people playing? Like how many people are currently on the Street Brawl queue compared to how many people are on the unranked ranked queue, whatever you want to call it, considering that it's not actually ranked, but it is kind of ranked, which obviously has its own issues. But one thing that did stand out is like when they announced Street Brawl blank, they did say that this was not going to affect your rank. It wasn't going to affect anything like that. So you can just go in there and just do what you want. And it is a great place for people to actually learn new heroes. As we said, like I think 2 episodes ago, learn new heroes, learn your actives, learn all the kits, be able to kind of just go into a fight knowing you're, not going to be kind of dead in the water in the normal game. But Street Brawl is having some interesting effects, it seems, on ELO for your heroes. Is this correct?
Yeah, so right now, obviously, it doesn't affect your rank at all. And so do not be afraid if you go in to play Street Brawl, like most of us do, to chill out or relax whilst playing Deadlock. Doesn't affect whether you're going to go up or down in ranks. What it does affect, though, is the little arrows next to your heroes. And you can int hard enough in Street Brawl, which some players at the higher level are currently doing on their main heroes, till they have double down arrows in terms of skill level. Which means that when they go play matches, MM's going to favor them to have better teammates than the enemy does, but they're playing on a hero they know how to play very well. It's just basically a way to cheese matchmaking. I don't know how many people are doing this, but I think it does need to be changed at some point.
It sounds like an in single account smurfing almost.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know what
it is more helpful as well. I don't want to say helpful, but I mean, if you're playing on a Smurf account, the speed at which you're chewing through ranks, it's not, I don't think for many people this is kind of a good way to get rid of Smurf accounts. It is also rough, but the amount of time it takes from a Smurf account to go from Obscurus to a turn of 6 is very short right now. If you're winning all your games, you're carrying all your games, you hit that highest rank very quickly on a Smurf account, which kind of de-incentivizes people from actually trying to Smurf these days, because like you're not having a huge amount of fun in the first place.
Fair. I mean, well, we'll see how they kind of adjust that, because obviously Street Brawl is a great place for people. So I think that kind of keeping them separate for the moment is a good thing. You kind of touched on it earlier on ranked versus ranked mode, and I just want to briefly bring that up again here, Jabin, because obviously, for my money now, with the amount of players that are in and stuff like that, I think that even just aside from Street Brawl, I think players are still kind of hungry and voracious for a mode where they can play the normal game, right? Without the hindrance for their mind of, ruining other people's ranks, ruining other people's games, and not going for those ranks. I think if they brought that in now with the player base, I think it'd probably be okay, right? Like the triple kind of queue. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they're probably waiting to see, right? Like, I think the player blow up from this was probably hard to predict for sure. Like, I think nobody was thinking like, oh, these are all going to come out and then we're going to shoot up to 125k daily from being like 20k daily for like months and months and months, right? Like, I don't think anybody felt like this will bring it 100k concurrent, like a little daily. Like, that is kind of nuts to imagine. So I wouldn't expect them to be immediately, we'll get these heroes out and then we'll turn around some ranked mode updates, right? Like, I don't think that was in the pipeline, but I would hope that they would see something like this. And then, perhaps if the data helps, represent that kind of idea as well, that people are looking for like another queue, that will be something they mess around with again. Because I do think, it is a little weird because like, me and Blank have had situations like this recently where we'll queue up a game and we'll get someone who's obviously not very good at their hero. And, you go like, oh, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, I don't play this hero. This isn't a character I really play.
Sure.
I just wanted to, but I do want to play it. Like, where else do I go? Like, they have to queue up and play, right? What are we going to do? Encourage people to smurf in this closed alpha? Like, this is so strange. There is no separation. But like I said, I think the problem with the ranked mode previously and then combining that queue with the regular queue, like I think they should have just done away with it entirely, probably, and just said whatever. But I think when they combined it with that queue and they made these ranks visible, even though you can hide them, most people are not going to. It does have this weird element where like this regular game mode is very serious for no reason, like
because it
like,
is.
Yeah,
my rank it is. Your guys' rank it is. Everyone's very serious.
Sure. I just mean in terms of like how you mentally approach it, right? Like, sure. I don't think even Valve necessarily want all the players to be queuing up and being like, oh, I must win every game to climb my rank, right? That's not even something that they're focusing on right now. So I think, if this player base size does keep up, I would hope that that's like an or a shift that they're making quickly. Is like, okay, this is an opportunity where we can debut this like ranked idea again and start looking at rank modes and ways we can make that work. And like obviously draft and stuff can link into that. They could test those like simultaneously, right? You could test different draft styles with a ranked queue or something like that. But I would hope that that's like a development thing that they're considering.
Yeah, that's fair. Blank, you did slightly hit on this before, but do you have any things to add to it?
Not really. I mean, I think that honestly, we just do need like a little testing ground, something like that. And that testing ground can't be playing against bots. I think most people don't want to do that. I know people do play against bots, but that's when they're first starting out in the game and they're a little bit afraid to jump into the main mode. But the general progression should be play against bots, then quick play, then ranked. But yeah, and there is an extra competitive mode in the game that you can check. But again, it's just like, no, I don't want to, because the funny thing is how hidden that is. I know that if I check that button, I'm going to be playing with the sweats. I'm going to get flamed all game, and or just get demolished. I think that option is so inaccessible that I don't want to click it.
I don't even know if mine's on or off. Because I haven't looked at it since they said, there's a new checkbox and it's extra competitive mode. I haven't looked at it since then. And I don't know where it's gone either because I think the UI for the options has changed since then. So I was like, whatever. It might be there still. I don't know. But actually, let's go back to what you were guys saying about the player base, right? Because 125k currently, like as peaks, is huge. But what's interesting as well is that when it comes to the esports games that are currently ongoing, Deadlock Night Shift is kind of the destination that a lot of people are going to actually watch those kinds of things. The last 2 weeks have been like 15,000 viewers across Twitch and YouTube, which is kind of crazy conversion rate for the amount of people playing to the amount of people actually watching just these fledgling tournaments that are existing. I'm not saying Deadlock Night Shift is a fledgling tournament, just in terms of where the esports scene is at.
Jason!
Right now. So my question is actually about obviously the game is very serious. People are taking it very seriously, but competitive games versus public games. are a very different environment right now, Blank. And I want to talk to you about kind of where the heroes sit in this regard. Because a lot of people are watching these competitive games and they're thinking to themselves, okay, how can I play like this? How can I get better? And stuff like that. But they're two very different environments completely, it feels.
Yeah, they're incredibly different. And I think that it's so funny with the right now, I think we're actually in one of the best metas we've had in quite a while, where a lot of things are viable. The only issue you'll ever run into in pub games at the moment is just not having an M1 carry. Because not having a gun carry late game feels really rough because Spellbreaker is so strong and Resiliences are so strong. And if you combine Spirit Resilience and Spellbreaker, if you're playing against a Spirit team, they basically just lose. So you really do need an M1 carry. And sometimes that the matchmaker doesn't give you one for whatever reason. I don't know why. But you are right. Between competitive and pub games, it's very spirit heavy and competitive because they want to have the heroes that have a lot of impact in the early game to quickly transition to taking down the base. And then they have one dedicated and one carry. In pub matches, I think it's totally fine to have like 3 late game carries because it's very easy to stall out a lot of these matches towards the late game. But it's miserable. I think that's what we come down to, is that some pub games can be miserable whilst you're just stalling out for your carries to succeed. But yeah, I do think that it's sort of difficult to... You can gain a little bit from watching competitive games, but I think your pub games, it's best just to play what you enjoy.
David?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of always the nature of it, right? I think it's just... less controlled games are naturally going to go longer. People are going to make more mistakes. You're going to get away with more stuff than you would in like a controlled competitive environment. So I think it's just kind of the nature of it and how I think all games are like this, right? I think if you look at the stats of like Dota 2 right now, like I'm almost sure that a lot of their late game carries that aren't very good at competitive almost certainly have higher stats in regular all pick or regular ranked queue or whatever, right? Like I just think it's more likely that these kind of things can flourish because people are just not as good at ending out games. And I think especially with the state of Deadlock right now, where it is a big challenge, even for coordinated teams to close out the game, right? We always highlight that even in Night Shift there, they have to stall out another 8 minutes and get a 50, 60k soul lead before they even think about, going directly into the base and actually trying to like take down the structures. It makes sense that like naturally in a less coordinated environment, these kind of carries are going to flourish. Even things like Wraith and Seven that I think have been kind of out of the competitive meta for a long time since they've kind of been kneecapped in the past. These heroes still perform really well in solo queue. I don't know. We were talking about Dead Frag a couple times off the pod lately. Very cool website, but the zeitgeist over there has always got Seven. It's like all the pros are playing Seven, and you look, and not really, but like he's just performing really well because naturally he gets a bit more space, like he gets more time, and even if you're Seven and you get full build, you're still Seven with full build even after the nerfs. So.
You brought up a good point, though, there about, like, we were even saying in the actual competitive games of, like, okay, yeah, but they still need 8 minutes, and then they still need to round out the game with a 50, 60k soul lead. And something that arises for me a lot when I think about that is the new base layouts and how difficult it can potentially be to either siege. Personally, I have a bit of a hard time defending them because apparently I'm useless. But sieging, even at the competitive level, seems a bit more difficult here with these now huge bases compared to what they previously were, Blank.
Yeah, you have to be really on it. And I think the reason why Abrahams can come back from a lot of games where otherwise it shouldn't make sense is that their understanding of the base and their ability to work as a team is just so much higher than everyone else because a lot of other teams are chopping and changing in players all over the shop. So they don't have that synergy that's built up over time. I think that's okay. I think that some teams can perform to a highest level. When it comes to defending that base, you need to be really locked in. And because Abrahams has that amount of synergy, they can do it. That's not to say that it's easy at all. I think that you get such a big base defense advantage that people try to push into Abrahams. Like, they're quick to punish any mistake, players out of position. You're not all on the one shrine together. We're going to take down 2 of your players on the side, and it's going to take you too long to get over towards us. So it's tough. It's very, very tough right now, and I think the base could do with some changes. I actually did I enjoy the looks and the feel of the new bases. I like the way the new patrons work as well, with the resistances and invulnerability when you've got 2 players in the pit. What I did prefer from the olden days was the smaller... The days of yore was the smaller base, right? Where it kind of felt obvious where you were fighting, and it was very much like localized on that area, and it encouraged a team fight. I feel like these new bases feel more like, oh, something's happening over there. Oh, someone's died, I guess. And now we're going to do this. I don't think you ever have that big, epic team fight in the middle of the pit to finish the game.
For sure. And
it does all feel quite isolated now, definitely. And I think also like the vertical space, I don't think it is taller, to be honest, but it feels, because it's so much wider, I think it feels a lot taller. I feel like it's so much harder to track people coming off the zip lines from their base to defend. They're like, you know, behind you, above you to the left somewhere suddenly. You're like, Mina's floating down upon you with the umbrella. Like, it is a lot more chaotic. I definitely agree with that sentiment for sure, that it doesn't feel like you get these like controlled 6v6s within the base anymore. It is very much like we're trying to snipe this person and their team's trying to snipe this person. It's like, you know, it gets really, really messy really quickly.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, even beyond the size of it, it's weird, right? Because like when there was no art in the base, I was like, okay, it's kind of easy to figure out where people are and stuff like that. Now when it looks fantastic. It looks great, the base. But there's a lot of visual clutter. And already a team fight of 6v6 where they're all throwing out their ults and they're all throwing out their abilities. And I'm like, I can't, as you say, I'm trying to keep track of everything that's going on across this ginormous space. Because lanes do a very good job, and also all the kind of pathway between the lanes. A lot of them, for the most part, they're quite confined in space, as much as, you know, you're outside, you're in the open. But no, fights are happening in kind of confined spaces, but the bases just feel massive. It's hard for me to keep track of everything, for sure. Well,
I did see a cool thing. I was watching Sonya Sniper the other day, talking about the base resistance, playing Lash, and the team was trying to end, and he was like, just go for it, I'll ult them. And he picked up 4 of them standing on the patron, threw them into the fountain, and his team just crushed the patron. And I thought that was really cool. It's like he took off the resistances, he just launched them all back into their fountain. Just like using the lash ult like defensively. Well, that was really cool.
Yeah, that's a smart way of doing it. I mean, I think it needs another look at. It does need another look at. Not massive fan right now of it. I just miss those 6v6s, and if the 6v6 fights are going to happen, they're going to happen in the base. That's where you expect it to happen. I think that's my biggest grievance about it all, is you don't get those cool fights anymore. And again, because people are getting caught out a lot of times, I feel like maybe in Deadlock I get 1 or 2, 3 maybe big team fights, and that's it. Other than that, it's just players getting caught a lot, which I don't really enjoy. And again, I do think that lends into how the objectives work right now. And I think that is like the one big inherent flaw of the urn, which is that because it's a moving objective, people aren't really sure how to play around it. So you don't have these fights for it. Or people aren't there to fight for the pickup. People aren't there to fight for the handoff. I don't know. That's the only thing I don't like about it. I think they will always have problems with that as long as it's as a moving objective, because it's not intuitive to players. The same way the base isn't really intuitive at the moment, I think.
Yeah, I was having one interesting thought about it recently when I was kind of thinking about this game compared to Dota. And I think like in Dota 2, the base is much weaker. Structures in general are just not very strong in Dota. But then the trade-off for that is they obviously have stuff like buyback. So it's like, that's the thing that you're playing for. And I think that's like an interesting shift in the mentality of like the design, where like, you know, they will force the base and it's not very strong, but they're not expecting to end. They're like, how much are you going to let us take until you spend the gold to come back? And that's the win they get, right? Is like, we forced your carry to spend 1k gold just to respawn to stop us from taking more of the base. But the base itself wasn't the threat, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like now the game is in kind of a weird state with Deadlock, where the base is a big threat as well as the players coming out of the base. Like, it's very hard to fight, like, going in, and like, it's a weird... the juxtaposition between the two games, that obviously, you know, they make both of them, and, you know, theoretically Ice Frog designs both of them. Like, it's interesting to see how different they are kind of in practice in the current state.
I think also in Dota 2 you have like a fortification, right, as a team, where you can activate the thing and like make your buildings a bit invulnerable. I mean, even when like a right click hero comes up and just starts attacking a barracks in Dota 2, even without fortification, it still takes sometimes a little while the building's not fighting back against you, of course. Like that's kind of a thing. But I think fortification does help a little bit with Dota in terms of slowing that down a little bit, I suppose.
I think buyback and fortification is like team agency as opposed to like player agency, which I think is really good. I think that if you're just a player and your Wraith's getting caught out off in the jungle, now suddenly you lose mid boss because of that, or you lose like a walker. As a team, you can all agree that the Wraith's made a big mistake there. Shouldn't have been out in the jungle by herself, but we can fix this problem by investing one of our fortifications into this. Or we can fix this problem by, if I'm dead also, I can buy back and then potentially help the walk, or she can buy back. I think that's what's nice about it. But again, Jim brings up a good point that buyback as well as fortification doesn't make a huge amount of sense right now because the base is so strong.
It would be even worse.
It would be even worse. Yeah. Again, but I think that's what what's what I quite like Deadlock to do is like work more into team agency as opposed to like working on how do we make it harder and harder for the attackers to win essentially. Because I think right now comeback souls, base advantage, defenders advantage, all sorts of whacked up at the moment. First blood doesn't really matter at all a lot of times. I really dislike that mechanic where you can get 2 kills early in the game and then it gets to 5 minutes, and if they kill you once because you make a slight mistake, suddenly they're on par with you in terms of souls. So it felt like your entire lead early game made no difference, and you still should be afraid to play aggressive and press the advantage, because if you do make a mistake pressing the advantage, suddenly you're back to square one. I don't really like that either. Again, go on.
Is it the same in other MOBAs? Like, does League have a similar conversion?
No, if you're ahead by...
No, yeah, kill goal doesn't scale in League with time.
Okay.
I think that's the big difference with Deadlock, is that soul scale with time, right, on kill. That's like the big change. Like, League doesn't scale, it's 300 the whole time, but it scales with a streak. So if you're like streaking and you're 3, 4, 5 kill streak, then you're worth more gold, right? For like the bigger shutdown. Now, nowadays in League, you can also get shutdowns for things like farming. So, like, you know, if somebody's farming way ahead of the curve as well, they'll develop a shutdown. But, like, it's always very visible when somebody does give more gold. I think that's one of kind of the sleeper things of Deadlock that isn't very obvious until you're kind of clued in about it, is that, like, scaling death reward and how much gold you get for killing someone going up. And obviously, like, especially once you get to the mid game and people are carrying bags from jungle farming, right? You know, we've all seen, like, the 1,000 bag drop. And obviously we all know that's huge in theory, but it's actually a massive swing. Like, when you put it out on paper, like, it's, you know, it's at least 2,000 net worth swing. That's not even counting the time that person isn't continuing to farm because they're dead. You can do additional stuff. You know, you also get the kill goal on top of it. Like, there is a lot of hidden power, I think, in kills that isn't super visible. And I think that is kind of what Blank's point is, right? Is like, yeah, if you get 2 kills at 2 minutes and then one guy kills you at 6 minutes, it feels like his kill was almost more valuable, you know? Unless you really held, you know, your slight gold advantage, like your 800 item buy was so powerful.
I took all their boxes. Like, it's just, I think it is kind of crazy. I think it's like sort of, I don't think it feels great to play against at the moment. I don't think it feels great to play against. Like, I want to be taking risks if I'm ahead, try and get further ahead, but the game like punishes you for that. So you just don't do that, and then the enemy team just sort of plays around boxes, and then the laning phase meant nothing. Which I don't really enjoy. I don't really enjoy that at all. And I mean, again, I'm on the receiving end of the laning phase meant nothing a lot of times when I lose lane. And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter because I'll just farm and then we'll just win at 40 minutes instead of 30. Yeah.
I think there'll be more tweaks. I think they've already tweaked these things multiple times, like in terms of how many souls you would get for the kills later on down the line, as well as kind of what's going on in that laning phase into the mid game. But you know, we're still in the invite only phase, so there's still time for them to be able to make these adjustments if they deem it necessary. This is the most important part. Some other teams in Deadlock that don't feel so good to go up against. A team like Abraham's, of course, in the night shift has been able to look insane in these last 2 weeks, having some crazy comebacks against not only Low Key W but also Leviathan. And speaking of Leviathan here, boys, they actually had, fresh off the press for esports, a bit of a roster change in Empty Dreams having gone, and Osis is back in. Of course, Osis has won the Trolley Open back with Mel Team back in the day, so clearly, I say back in the day, it's not that long ago. I'm getting old.
We're all younger.
But, of course, this is actually maybe a little push in the right direction for Leviathan, or who knows here, going up against Abrahams in what seems like a never-ending assault from Abrahams, seemingly coming back in a lot of these games. But no Empty Dreams, Osa's back in. Does anybody have any thoughts on this? Mr. Blanky, I'll come to you first.
Mr. Blanky, don't like that
Mr.
one.
Blanky. No, you don't.
Wet Blanky.
Oh, even worse.
He hates that.
But yeah, I think Empty Dreams gets a lot of flack. Some of it deservedly so. I think he has thrown a couple of games that they could have maybe won. Again, I think it's very hard against Abrahams. Like, you're just trying to figure out anything to work with. But I don't think Empty Dreams is a bad player whatsoever. I think he's an aggressive player for sure. And that gets them ahead sometimes. I think there are quite a few times where Empty Dreams is on Mina, and it's like the only reason they're still in the game is because Empty Dreams is on Mina. But he has like had these moments where it's like, what are you doing? I think OC's is an okay pickup, right? I think that he kind of brings Leviathan what they want, which is reliability. That's what OC's will do. He will farm well. He does box routes well. His hero pool is the lacking part, though.
What do you think, Jebin?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would say, like, at least for me, these two players don't feel drastically different. I think, like, I kind of put them in this same pool of, like, M1 players that are extremely good at farm efficiency. Like, I think they both, you'll feel like a game looks even. You'll look up at the scoreboard and you'll see Empty Dreams is like 12k up on the lobby, and you'll be like, that's weird. Like, I don't know where you got that from. And I feel like OC's was the same. I think OC's in that Ivy meta, especially the gun Ivy meta, was always just rocking up to like a major team fight 20k up on the lobby, and you're like, I don't know where this came from. There's literally not that much gold on the map. Like, is he taking it alone? I don't know what's going on here. I definitely, I think both of your criticisms are fair. I think Empty Dreams hasn't quite had that clutch factor lately. I think gets these massive leads and then will die at the start of a fight or get picked on a rotation, and like that kind of like at that point you may as well farm nothing, right? Like, it's kind of like if you are the one with all the gold and you get pinched at a signature time, it's literally the worst thing that could happen for your team. So he has, at least like the last few weeks, at least against Abrahams, I think it's been missing kind of that clutch. But yeah, I think OC's is very reliable, but maybe isn't the kind of the person that's going to make that massive play, but is going to put out that consistent damage and always make sure they have the gold, right?
Yeah.
So do I think this is a drastic change for them? I don't know. Like, obviously they went away from OC's to Empty Dreams, maybe looking for that, someone who could like take over the game at a key moment. And then that didn't end up panning out. And now, I don't remember who Obi Kim got replaced with off the top of my head. But because it was OC's and Obikim, right? And then both of them were gone, and then it was Empty Dreams and whoever I'm missing right now.
Whoever it was, yes.
Dead frag.
But obviously with OC's back, but keeping that other half changed, I guess they just want to, I can understand the frustration. I've been in that position where it's like there's a team that you just can't beat. It gets very tense and emotional, I'm sure, as like, it feels like you'll keep ramming into this problem and you just can't get through it, right? You're like, we're changing players, we're trying different stuff, we're drafting differently, we ban this, we ban that. Like, you just can't sometimes. And I definitely understand, like, consistently feeling like you just want to change stuff. Sorry, who was it?
Bobby?
Bobby, ZXC Bobby.
It might have been Bobby. It might have been Bobby came in. Yeah, I think you might be right. It was Bobby and Empty Dreams. But I definitely understand feeling like you just want to change something else and just try to find a formula that works.
I think you totally hit the nail on the head, though, right? Being Abrahams being the yardstick that you're currently measuring yourself against is kind of an unfair comparison almost in the current state of where EU professional deadlock is, right? Because, I mean, if you look at the last game that they played last week, Blank, it did feel like in that draft, okay, we're going to play Apollo and we're going to play Graves because we think it's kind of fun, and then get really behind and then come back anyway because they're Abrahams. So I don't know how you actually defeat this team. I don't know if Osis is going to be able to make the kind of difference against a team like that can kind of just have fun because that's how good they are and still be able to make the recoveries happen.
I mean, we've seen this pattern already, right? it's kind of already existed with like the Buff Enjoyers era, and there was a big period where I think most people were saying the same thing: is anybody can beat this team is going to kind of come close. And then there was like the original Abrahams that appeared, and like they did eventually lock in and kind of start taking games, and that kind of made Buff Enjoyers feel like they had to change stuff. And then over time, obviously, that team ended up disbanding, right? When they couldn't solve the problem to start beating like this Abrahams lineup, and that Abrahams lineup from then is not the same one that exists now, but obviously that team has kind of rotated and still maintained its form, even with players changing. So I mean, I think we will hit a point where it can happen, right? The talent has existed, like previously they did show up and they made another team and they did take down that original 6 with Mikhail S and that group. They were eventually dethroned, so I think it will happen. I definitely understand the feeling of just, we have to keep changing stuff, guys.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna change, and eventually we will take games. Like one of these times is gonna work out.
I watched you through the years. I have to go up against some of those teams in those World Championship finals, my friend. I'm well aware. Let's move on to one of our next topics, though, here as we're kind of rounding out the hour, as we have our meta report and what's going on the streets of New York right now, because of course there's some great heroes currently. There's maybe some frustrating heroes to play against for some people, but some great heroes nonetheless. Blank.
Yeah, so Rem is obviously the big offender right
Love
now.
Rem, me. Love Rem.
We spoke about it last week. I think Rem's a great character. I think I came across a bit harsh on Rem last week, but I think Rem's a great character, really cool kit. Overall, probably one of the best designed heroes I think we've had in quite a while. Like, he's just so Deadlock. I don't know how else to describe it, right? I think he's a character that could only really exist in Deadlock, which is cool. But his kit is so bloated. I didn't know until recently, and I feel kind of ashamed to not know this until recently, but every time you hit a pillow, it gives him cooldown reduction on all of his other abilities. Didn't know that.
Cooldown reduction.
Flat cooldown reduction. So there is so much built into his kit. It's like, does he really need all of this? It is insane. And I think that, there's the sinner sacrifice you can take. Because again, I talked about bad Rems last week. I'll talk about good Rems this week. It is so tough to play against, because not only now are you trying to manage your waves, your walkers, keeping your guardians alive, but you're also now like, there's just a rat in the jungle taking all of our sinners, and there's not much we can do about it either, because he doesn't even need to be there. Yes, we can scare the little helpers off, but he's already taken like half the soul value from there, and we keep taking these crazy random fights just to prevent him from doing that. And if they've got a coordinated team, they can catch you, because it's probably going to be one or two guys going to stop Rem. You're not going to send your whole team to do it. But yeah, I think the coordination you can play around Rem's crazy. The fact that he can push lanes so easily is crazy. He just does all the roles a little too well right now. I think he needs to be toned back a bit.
So much so that I don't think Valve envisaged that this is kind of how potentially oppressive or potentially strong that Rem was going to be here, Jabin. Do you think so?
Yeah, I think probably it was probably maybe overlooked a little bit. I mean, it's one of those things where they obviously these characters are going to come out and people are not going to have mastery of them straight away. It's going to take a little time for them to like learn the specific stuff. I do think that the kit is solid, and I don't hate it, so much. I would just try to turn down some of the more annoying quirks, which is stuff like, I think it's fine that like his helpers buff the minions. Do I think the minions should be borderline unkillable from the get-go with a helper on them? Probably not, right? Like, I don't think it's very fun to have to heavy melee them like 4 times from 100% HP or something to kill it. It just feels ridiculous, right?
They also do a lot of damage.
Yeah, having that healing power and like the split push power late game or whatever, or you push out the wave and then you leave with your teammate, and so you leave the helpers to like make that wave a little stronger is fine, but I don't think that it should be, it should feel so difficult to deal with. And I mean, they could do other stuff, right? Like maybe add a few seconds to the helpers taking sinners, so you do have that little bit more time to think about it, right? If you notice he's missing, you're like, oh, he's going to be going there straight away. Maybe they take like another 2 seconds between each hit, right?
Yeah,
I think that helps balance that out a little bit.
It's slower.
Something else I've thought about, like maybe is something they could consider changing, is making him hittable while he's jumping in his 2. Because I do think that's a little crazy that like, especially if you potentially get like more range stuff, you can be leaping across the
Grand
I
Canyon
would call
at
it
this
the
point.
river, but it's not a river, right? Like, but you know what? Like the intimate bit in the map, the lower down section, you know, you can go from one side to the other, and you can be leaping to an ally, and you know, as soon as he's pressed 2 on that ally, it's over. Like you can't hit him, you can't do anything. He's just gone, right? So maybe making him hittable in that when he's still traveling, right? So like gun carries maybe get a little bit more time to maybe like damage him, or like, you know, you can maybe hit a skill
So
shot
he
on him.
has to build resistances at some point. Yeah.
You could bebop hook him on the way, and it would, you know, go crazy on Reddit. You know, like, yeah, I think that's like a change that would probably make him feel a little bit less annoying to play with. But yeah, I worry like if they did all of that, he would just feel awful, right? So I don't think he's the worst right now, but I do think there are elements of the kit that are very annoying for sure.
Yeah, he's the whole lane. He's the whole lane. I think that's the most annoying thing about him, is that if you play against a Venator Rem, you're not really playing against the Venator as much as you're just playing against the Rem. Like, you're trying to defeat the buffed up troopers. You're dealing with the fact that the Ven, even though you poked him out, still is 100% HP because a lot of the missing health gain off the back of it, as well as the healing trooper. It's rough, man. It's really rough. It's a boring lane as well. It's so boring.
Tough one to do anything with, for sure. And, you know, Rem jumping over to Venator, we can jump over to him as well, because he's causing a bit of a stir. I know J-Ben loves his good old Venator, especially those ult clips, but he's also hitting things really hard with his stabbies, with his headbutts, with all of that. It's a scary thing. And also Gut Punch, Gut Shot is also causing like some weird collision moments as well. Has that been fixed yet? I can't recall.
No. You can still
Absolutely not.
Yeah. You can currently get Gut Shot into the ground in certain places, and the ground counts as a wall.
Love that.
Which causes a stun. You also can get Gut Shot into stairs, and stairs count as a collision object, so you get stunned on like your Guardian stairs in blue. It's all a bit weird right now. I think Gut Shot got a buff, and rightly so, and it's a great ability, very, very fun ability. I sort of think it needs the same thing that Lash got, where once you click that button, you've got like a 90-degree angle. You can't, people 180ing on that stuff is kind of insane at the moment, so I don't really enjoy that. I think Melee Venator is sort of the new hotness right now. It does fall strong. It's crazy strong in the early game. It falls off really hard. I think Listic's been playing it a lot, but again, I do think that people are sleeping on him, because I think if you just build him normally, he's insane. He's actually insane. He's a really good lane bully. And I think that people are going to slowly realize, as soon as like the Melee Venator fad's over and people just continue to build him like they used to, with like point blank, Cult of Sacrifice, just play the Ven grenade build. I think maybe he'll have some adjustments. I don't know if they'll be like full nerfs, but might just be some fixes.
Well, let's head over to the Sinner's Confession box now with our priest J-Ben and get his thoughts as to what may be going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think in principle it's pretty cool that people have started to push him into like this like separate kind of build. It's like not your main M1 carry kind of style. It's more of like a roam heavy support Venator, I guess. It's sort of what it feels like, kind of like an Abrams, right? You're building Warpstone, you're building Echo Shard, you know, you're blinking on people and gut shotting them, and then like doing the stake, the charge stake for like a 2 billion damage. It is very, very brutal to play against. Like up to like that 25k, 30k point, it is nasty. Like you are dead. He is going to murder you. Like it's like, you know, gut shot into the stake. He pulls out the crossbow. By the time you regain control, he's headshot you and you're gone. So like that power spike feels tough, but I think it is. I do like it in theory that there's two separate kind of styles that you can play in concept. Like you could be this M1 carrier that's kind of scaling, you're building cultists, you're scaling out, or you could be like this like roam thing. I think it's good when characters can kind of have multiple draft fantasies they can fulfill. So I do like it overall, but it is gross. Like it is pretty gross.
Well, we'll see. Let's move on then from Venator quickly. He seems like he's really very strong here from the 6 heroes that's come along. Other heroes that people are kind of saying we're a little bit dead in the water for a while, but seem to be doing all right. Is like Little Infernus making a comeback? Or what do you think about that, Blank?
Yeah, I think Zerg's been playing him a lot recently. I actually went to go Infernus the other day. I think it was on the 19th of February. I pulled it up and I was like, I'm going to play Infernus, going to see how he is, all right? The reason I remember this because I clicked on Zergy's build and it was like published on the 19th of February. It was on the same day.
Let's go!
And he actually played him on stream that night. So I think this is in preparation of. And yeah, he's really good. And I think you get to play his duration gun build, which makes a lot of sense because Spellbreaker is an item that you typically buy much later on in the game, which is your big debuff resistance, because debuff remover no longer does debuff resistance and removes the debuff. So Infernus doesn't have that like catch-all item anymore at 3,200 anymore. So he's still really strong on that duration side of things, then building into escalating exposure pretty early. So I do think Infernus is good, still has certain issues in terms of like movement, but you can make that up with Warp Zone. So yeah, maybe Infernus is not as bad. I do think that some of his kit is just a bit boring though.
Well, that's going to be the problem for some of the old heroes, I think. Like the fact that these new 6 have come in, it feels like every single part of their kit has bullet resist, spell resist, everything, stuns, slows, disarms, blah, 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 blah. It never ends. And some of the old heroes just don't really have that, Jabin, right?
Yeah, I mean, he is a little tame in comparison, I think, at this point. We did kind of address that at another point. But, I think he's still cool. I don't know. I feel like every time I play Infernus lately and I shoot like 20 bullets into someone and they don't light on fire, and I'm like, well, that's miserable.
Yeah.
That's pretty depressing. I think I saw Parzelian playing him even this morning. And he made it look pretty good. He was like Backstabber Rush and like, playing a lot of these early Spirit Power things like into the duration, like you said. I don't know. I think maybe given that they kind of don't want him to be this like long range, light you on fire, like really oppressive kind of character, they could maybe try to push him more towards being like an initiator or like kind of AP bruiser kind of thing like Yamato, maybe doing something with the ult, like maybe make you be able to recast it or something, right? So you can use it more consistently for an engage, like recast it to trigger it sooner or something. Something like that could be like maybe making it more of an engage and like kind of like, yeah. I mean, I have seen people playing around the dash, but it doesn't look super effective. He just kind of dies too fast because he is primarily designed to be like a spell attack carry, right? But I don't know. It does feel like a tough spot where he was just kind of dominating the game for like upwards of 9-10 months, and they don't want to get it back to that without like it seems dangerous to like push power back into the afterburn or something, right? Because you might just be back to like, oh, we're all playing a furnace and we build warpstone, you can never get caught, and then like you laser someone for like 1 second and then they're burning for 1200 and like it was very, very tough. But I am glad to see him getting picked again, I think, because it did feel like he went from everywhere to literally nowhere, and I think there's got to be an in between that's playable somewhere, surely.
Yeah, I think it's okay for heroes to have their day and sometimes have a little bit of a lull, and then they'll come back, swings and roundabouts, as it always is in MOBAs, and it'll be swings and roundabouts here for this episode, I think, here, as we are kind of pretty much done for episode 3, so we'll do our outros. Blank, where can we find you? What are you up to? What are you doing?
You can find me over at Blankcast, most places, and doing things on the YouTube now and again, but mostly here on the Hyperline at the moment, just having a good time. Sometimes I do night shift, which is cool, so tune into that as well.
Oh, on tomorrow. We'll see. Jabin, how about yourself? Are you going to be the next Riftbound champion?
Maybe we'll find out. I mean, my next one will probably be in Lille in April. That could be exciting. Maybe I will be. Maybe I'll show up to a podcast episode and be like, "Hey guys, I won. That was cool."
Hey.
None of you know what it was. It wasn't Deadlock. But yeah, you can find me Jabin_ most places. I will probably not be on night shift. Because if they ask me, they are really desperate. But you can hopefully see these two.
I think it'd be good.
That would be cool. That would be cool.
I think you'd be awesome. I think I might be on again in this coming week, but we will see. We will see. As always, thank you very much for tuning in, guys. My name is Kalaris. You can find me at Kylaris, literally everything, at Adam and Kale for our retro gaming stuff, and of course, follow here at the Hyperline, because that's 3 episodes down, baby, and we ain't stopping anytime soon. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. We'll be back same time, same place next week for more Hyperline. Bye-bye for now.